Yep.
Thanks for taking a moment with us this evening. What's it mean this time of year to have an event like this in Washington, D.C.?
Oh, this is a great, great night. I mean, it's a real sign of the power of Irish America in DC. We have members of the House, members of the Senate, a great business community here. Tonight is going to be a $1 million night for Irish charities, right here in the heart of the nation's capital.
The state of Ireland and the United States, the relationship, just speak to the generalities of the Irish American and the Irish relationships at the moment.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, yesterday the Taoiseach had perhaps 6 hours FaceTime with the President of the United States. I don't think any other nation in the world gets that sort of access. It's tremendous.
Talk to us a little bit about how this used to be one single day of the year and now seems to be weeks and weeks of St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. Well, it's St. Patrick's Month, genuinely. I mean, we've done events from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast. We've probably had about 6,000-7,000 people attending our events. They started way back at the end of February, and our donors have come out in great force, young and old. It's tremendous.
Tell us about the fund itself and how everything's going.
Things are going well. We're celebrating our 40th year. It's remarkable to think in '76 we were a small entity with big dreams. We've raised $500,000 in that time, supported 3,000 organisations. We've now grown into a network across 12 countries. So the Irish diaspora is vibrant and, I'm glad to say, very generous.
Talk a little bit about the American government. You have Mr. Ryan here this evening.
We do. We have Speaker Ryan and, of course, his predecessor, Speaker Boehner, and we have Senator Tim Kaine, individuals who could play a key role in the outcome of the presidential race later this year. So we're delighted to have, we're very honoured to have those guys with us.
And talk about how the growth over the years has come to be about and the people behind the scenes that have made that happen.
In terms of this event, we have a committee of extraordinary Irish Americans who drive this, about 20 people who work on a 6-month basis to really drive this event. Their outreach is extraordinary. I'm sure they lose friendships as a result, but we're all focused on reaching, or in this case, exceeding that goal.
Talk about Washington, D.C. as the location and why.
Well, this is the scene of the setting for our national gala. We have 150 events around the world every year. This is the most important. It's our official marking of St. Patrick's Day. It's our official part of the nation's celebration of St. Patrick's. So it's very important from a fundraising point of view, but also in terms of a shop window for the American Ireland Fund in front of major US opinion makers.
And talk about the global aspect and how many countries you're in.
We're in 12 countries, and over the last 2 weeks we would have hosted events in Canada, in Britain, in Singapore, in Australia, in China. Like I say, the Irish family is vibrant, lively and very generous.
And lastly, tell us a little bit about your personal involvement and how rewarding it's been for you personally.
Oh, it's very rewarding. I mean, this is my uniform. I'm paid to come to glorious events like this. It really is great. It's tremendous to work with people who are so generous, but equally it's remarkable to see the impact of their generosity on the ground in Ireland. We support about 300 projects a year. Some people are struggling really against the odds, and what the generosity here enables them to do is fight back, and that's very, very satisfying.
And tell us a little bit about the specifics of some of those things that you do in the community.
Well, one of the projects we'll talk about tonight, because Northern Ireland is so important to this audience, is integrated education, which educates Catholics and Protestants together. That still represents only 7% of the school-going population. So we have a lot of work to do. The Northern Ireland peace process is the most successful ever, but we have to be vigilant and bring it to its completion.
And what other projects come to mind on the horizon?
Another one we're working on with our good friends, U2, is Music Generation, which is bringing musical education to kids across Ireland. That might seem a little rarefied, but it's not. A lot of these kids are in difficult situations, marginalised situations, so they get great therapeutic benefit from that. 26,000 kids are now participating in the programme, and it's created 330 jobs. So that shows the economic benefit of philanthropy also.
Sure. And last question, how do you feel this evening?
I feel great. I feel absolutely great. I feel very proud to be Irish. I feel, I wish more Irish people could experience this, because this shows just the depth of the welcome and the great respect and the great affection that America has for Ireland.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time. Testing 1, 2.
Good.
How are you feeling this evening?
Oh, it's a wonderful evening. Great to be here in Washington, D.C. A great event for the Ireland Funds. I mean, a showcase event for them, really. And it's been an honour to be here for the last number of years, really, seeing the cream of the crop, really, of Irish America here, supporting what's a great cause and the wonderful work that the Ireland Funds have done in supporting projects across the island. So, I mean, we work hand in hand, really, from a tourism perspective. Obviously, we're delighted to welcome as many people from the United States to Ireland. Been coming in record numbers last year, and we'll be here in record numbers again. But it's great to be here tonight supporting the great work of the Ireland Funds.
Tell us a little bit more about the relationship between the two organizations.
Well, I mean, our chief executive, Niall Gibbons, and my friend Kieran McLaughlin, we both were in the same class in Trinity College back in the 1980s, so we go back a long way. So it's always great to be, teaming up with one of your former buddies and supporting each other in a very good cause, that is the whole island of Ireland and the economic welfare and well-being of our people. We both support the island of Ireland. Tourism Ireland was founded under the Good Friday Agreement, so we're supporting Northern Ireland realise its tourism potential as well as the whole island. And we've seen amazing success. Last year, a record 1.9 million people came to visit Northern Ireland. We've seen great success like Titanic, Game of Thrones, like golf, G8 Summit in Fermanagh. And it really is, becoming the jewel in the crown of the whole island, which is wonderful. And I know that our friends in the Ireland Funds do wonderful support work as well for both communities in Northern Ireland too.
Tell us a little bit more about Washington, D.C. as a location for this event.
Well, what an amazing city. I mean, it's a capital city. I mean, you walk around, you really feel it and you sense it. What's great about Washington, D.C. as well is that we now have 2 direct flights into Dublin, whereas 5 years ago we had none. And United Airlines have now announced that they're going to run year-round into D.C., which is great, and Aer Lingus already do. So we've come from really a standing start to really running at full speed. So from a tourism perspective, that's good, but also from a business perspective, it means that it's very accessible. It's the seat of power in North America and the United States. And from an Irish perspective, that connectivity is very important. Also for exports and foreign direct investment as well. That's a good news story.
Talk about this time of year a little bit, how much momentum it creates for your group throughout the entire year.
Gosh, I mean, St. Patrick's Day, no other country has any day like this in the world. If you were a product like Coca-Cola, you'd be very jealous. But I'm just looking at pictures coming in tonight of all the things around the world that are lighting up green. I just got pictures there of the Great Wall of China, World Trade Center down in New York, the equator sign in Uganda. Some amazing pictures coming in, and all because of our patron saint. But it's a great PR angle as well, and it means we're trending on Twitter. Ireland will be top of the class tonight, and from a tourism perspective, it means that when people are thinking about where they might come, well, Ireland will be top of their agenda for 2016.
Tell us what the brand of Irish means nowadays.
Well, the brand of Irish, from a tourism perspective, is very much caught up in the warmth and friendliness of the people. That's number one. The scenery and the dramatic landscape and the Irish culture and expression in music and dance. I mean, they're the really things that stand out for us. And it really is about converting the power of that brand into encouraging people to go and experience it at first hand. And it's great that last year, we saw in excess of 1.3 million people from the United States visit the island of Ireland in record numbers. Really important market, and those numbers are very significant. It means that you have those 1.3 million people spending in excess of $1 billion, supporting an awful lot of jobs. Indeed, tourism now supports 250,000 jobs across the whole island of Ireland, so a big employer, not just in big places like Dublin, Belfast, but all the small towns and villages throughout the whole island of Ireland, so really important for the rural economy.
Tell us a little bit about this year, 2016, centenary celebrations, and what that means for tourism.
Well, the centenary celebrations, are very significant. They're almost upon us now. We're very close to Easter. But it's not just about Easter. There's been a whole programme that has been put together by a really dedicated team of Ireland back at home. A wonderful programme has been running since the start of January, and will be going all the way through to the end of the year. It involves our museums, it involves the galleries, it involves school children, not just looking back on the past 100 years, but also reflecting on the coming 100 years and what it means to be Irish in the world today and into the future. From a tourism perspective, there'll be lots of things to see and do. We expect a lot of people to come home and experience that. Easter will be a very busy time. The hotels are probably all full at this stage. But all through the course of the year, Ireland 2016 is a centenary year and a very important year in reflecting on the past, but also just thinking about the future.
Last question, Tell us a little bit about kind of how you focus on the diaspora as well, and having them help you integrate into communities worldwide.
Well, I mean, there's no bigger Irish diaspora than the one here in the United States. We saw the power of that during the gathering, I mean, a number of years ago. A lot of people came home, a lot of people just engaged though, and I think it's important for Tourism Ireland as well that we continue to engage, through great channels like an Irish TV. It's been great to see that, great channel into the diaspora, established papers like The Voice, The Echo, Irish Central. There are really good channels there, Adrian Flanley's radio programme. There's so many good examples, and not just in the United States, but all around the world. I've been really privileged to be a part of that. And the Irish diaspora is very important to us because there's a new diaspora that's coming as well. A lot of Irish people have emigrated in the last 5 years. The GAA is an amazing contributor to the Irish globally as well. It's been amazing for me to see in places like the Middle East and China, new GAA teams springing up, and that's very important in terms of the bonds of keeping us connected and together. And technology plays a major role in that. I mean, Google, Facebook are very big companies back at home, but that technology means that we're all much more closely connected than we've been in the past. But it's important that we all come home at some stage, and we're delighted to put that invite out there to the world, and there's no better day to do it than St. Patrick's Day.
And last question. So you mentioned all the things around the world that are being colored green. What haven't we colored green yet?
Oh boy, I couldn't tell you that. We have a new list every year. It's like the third secret of Fatima. I'm not going to reveal it tonight.
Fair enough. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you as well. State your name and title into the camera for me.
My name is Professor Brian McCrath. I'm president of Dublin City University.
And we'll have a conversation just between us. Well, how are you feeling tonight?
Oh, very good. I mean, it's a fantastic week to be in Washington, D.C., and we had the whole day in the White House yesterday. I got to shake hands with President Obama, and it's fantastic for a small nation to get such access to so many important people in this week. So I'm here for 10 days actually with many engagements every day, but it's great for the university for projecting it and making connections with business leaders, with government leaders and so on.
Tell us more about your involvement in tonight's event for the university.
Yes, we have many connections with US universities, but probably the strongest one is with ASU, Arizona State University. So we have a full table we're sharing with ASU this evening. 3 years ago we created what we call a transatlantic higher education partnership, which we now have about 35 different projects running with that university. We have full-time staff of people managing the relationship. We have staff and students moving back and forth, so it's really exciting for us. But overall, the event itself, we have many connections with almost every table here this evening.
So tell us a little bit about what the university's kind of not just connections with the U.S., but Washington, D.C. in particular.
Well, with Washington, D.C., I suppose, I mean, I spent a year here myself. Before I became president, I was working with the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory here, working on biowarfare detection. So that was a very exciting time itself. So we've links into a number of the universities here, a number of the research institutions. I still maintain my links with the NRL, the Naval Research Laboratory. So we've many opportunities for dialogue when we're here. And of course, we link into many of the higher education research policy institutes here as well.
So everybody, of course, knows about the politics between the two countries, but what really bridges the gap between the ocean for education?
I think US students actually find Ireland a very attractive location to come to, especially Dublin, where we are. It's English speaking, fantastic culture, it's a safe place to be. You're on the edge of Europe. You can be almost anywhere in Europe from Dublin Airport within an hour and a half. So it's a very attractive location, and similarly for Irish students to come to the US, it would be one of the priority locations for students in our university. And of course as well, we have a lot of connection with enterprise here, and our university, Dublin City University, is one of the new universities in Ireland, very distinctive. We're called the University of Enterprise because of our engagement with the enterprise sector and because of our fostering a new generation of graduates that are innovative and enterprising. So when we're here, we can build on those relationships all the time.
Please take your seats.
So tell us a little bit about kind of what the future holds for DCU at the moment.
Well, DCU is now Ireland's fastest growing university. This September will be over 16,000 students. I think what's very important, as a young university established about 25 years ago, we're ranked in the top 50 of the world's 10,000 young universities, and these are universities defined as being established in the last 50 years. That has opened many doors for us internationally, and it means that students looking east and west are delighted to come to our university, this brand of a dynamic, innovative young university that actually impacts very strongly on the employability of our graduates, and that makes us a home for many international students. So currently we have 120 different nationalities on our campus, right in the heart of Dublin.
Brilliant. So tell us, last question here, tell us a little bit about this year, right? What the centenary means, 100 years celebrations are going on. Tell us a little bit about what that means to you from an educational perspective in Ireland.
I think this is a very pivotal year for Ireland. Not only are we looking back at the significance of the centenary of 100 years since that rising in Easter 1916, where we can look at the historical dimensions of that and the pathway to Irish freedom, but it's also a hinge point, a pivotal point for Ireland looking forward. And really the whole education sector in Ireland has been focusing on the new vision. What's the new proclamation for Ireland? And I think dynamic young universities like Dublin City University can play a key role in that. And our programme of events, we have a really packed programme of events, but really after looking at the historical dimensions, we're now focusing on the vision of a new Ireland and how this generation of millennials, this generation Y, how they can impact on a fantastic future for Ireland, where education, research and innovation are at the heart of a thriving society and a thriving economy.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time this evening.
Not at all, thank you.
Perfect. Well, let's start with the easy one. How are you feeling?
I feel great. I mean, the American Ireland Fund has done some terrific work over the years. It's part of the peace process in Ireland. I mean, look, there is no peace and no justice without jobs. And the American Ireland Fund, realizing that truth, has been about this important work year in and year out. It's a great gathering tonight. A lot of Irish American people, a lot of people from Ireland, from Britain, realizing that we all share this one planet together, and the one yearning the world over is for a job.
Tell us a little bit about how the American Ireland Fund really does speak to both the North and South in Ireland.
Well, I think one of the important realizations of the Good Friday Peace Accord is that violence and strife is really bad for business. And on the other hand, if you establish a process of peace and ability for people to talk with one another, to share power, to govern together, that's really good for business. And so I think what the big contribution of the American Ireland Fund is really taking actions to remind people of the truth that really we're all in this together, that we all want the same thing for our kids.
Remind us of your connections to Ireland.
My people came here 3 generations ago. On my dad's side, my dad, poor fellow, was 100% Irish, and his people came from Galway, up, I believe, in the mountains between Galway and Mayo. And so that's my connection.
We're based in Mayo. You know, I think it's interesting when you have so many different people from so many different backgrounds talking about Ireland this week. Talk about kind of the whole week now that's become St. Patrick's Day for Ireland.
Well, it's a terrific week. I mean, the reception last night at the White House, President Obama's obvious affection and familial connections of his own to Ireland. I mean, this has been a really magical time, quite honestly, these last 8 years. The President's visit to Ireland and so many people coming together and realizing that just, 10, 15 years ago, very few people thought Ireland could sustain a peace process. And now to see it happening, and even through the ups and downs of economic downturns and huge recessions, the fact of the matter is the Irish have continued to find a way forward. And that's an inspiring thing for the world, I think.
Thank you. Last question. 2016 is a big year in the Irish community, of course. When you think about celebrating 100 years of something, from an Irish American perspective, what does that mean to you?
Well, a lot of us here in the United States, came to understand Irish history in through the singing and the songs of groups like the Clancy Brothers. And I can remember pretty distinctly that one of the records, those were things on vinyl that used to spin with a little needle on them, that we had in our house was the 50th commemoration album from the 50th anniversary of the Easter Rising. So I believe that this is an important year for Ireland and an important year for Irish America as well, to be able to see this sort of interplay that's gone back and forth over the Atlantic. That seemingly wide ocean that divides us is actually a thing that unites us and has united us throughout our history. It's hard to imagine America moving forward without the contributions of Irish Americans and Irish people. And it's hard to imagine Ireland achieving its independence and being able to sustain a peace process without the echo of Irish America back.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
I know it watched.
Okay.
Yep. Fine. Okay.
So, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great. It's great to be back here at the American Ireland Fund dinner. It's awesome.
Tell us a little bit about your involvement in the fund over the years.
Well, my involvement in the fund predates my days in the Congress. In fact, going back to my days in the state legislature, I was involved in all things Irish and continue to be. And the American Ireland Fund has been a big part of that. The annual dinners, whether here in Washington or back in New York, and quite frankly in other parts of the country as well. I've been to quite a few of these dinners throughout the years.
Tell us a bit about how the fund, represents the country both north and south.
Well, I think the work of the American Ireland Fund and the investment that it makes in Ireland, both in the north and the south, to foster the continued peace process, as well as to help Ireland through some very, very difficult times economically, and many of the people who are hurt by that the most, or the least amongst us. The American Ireland Fund has been there as a reminder of the American contribution to Ireland and Ireland to the United States as well. So it's mutually beneficial, I think, in that regard, and something that I'm proud is as successful an entity that is today.
In this year, 2016, talk about what Washington, D.C. represents to Ireland in relations.
Well, I think it's pretty impressive. I don't think there's any other country in the world that punches above its weight like Ireland does here in Washington, here in the United States. And this dinner is a great example of that. Many of the highest elected officials in the United States will be here this evening. But I think the focus on all things Irish here in Washington for this, not this day, but this week, in many respects this month of March, speaks loudly to the close connectivity between the United States and Ireland and our people, both historically and present as well.
We're celebrating 100 years this year in a lot of respects. Tell us a little bit about the celebrations, but more so kind of the reflection of those 100 years from an American perspective.
There's no question that we're linked, and it didn't start in 1916. It actually started prior to that. And, whether it was the Young Ireland movement of the 1840s, or it's because of the famine that so many came to the United States, the involvement of the Irish in our Civil War and helping to build a country after that. Certainly the success of the Irish here in the United States and wanting to do more for its country, its homeland, that connectivity was brewing all along. We do look back and we see the American influence on the 1916 uprising. Whether it's De Valera, who was born in New York, or it was that James Connolly lived in Troy, or that others had come out here and fundraise, but also talk about the labor movement and the movement for independence for the people of Ireland here in the States has long been connected. And the contributions, I think, that the American people made back then to help Ireland move towards a free country was incredibly substantial at that time and continues today.
We know a lot of the stereotypical answers to the question, what's it mean to be Irish or Irish American? You personally, how do you feel? What does it feel to be Irish American?
It is a complex issue. It's very personal. My mother was born in Ireland. All four of my grandparents were born there. My connectivity to the island is a strong one. I have cousins and friends who live in Ireland to this day. But also as an elected official, as an Irish American elected official as well, there's that duty bound that I have to put the best foot forward. And I'm very proud of not only my roots, but the contributions of Irish America to this great land, whether it's in the military, in the arts, in politics, across the board, in science, elsewhere. We're second to no other ethnic group, and maybe no better either at the same time, but very, very much aware of those contributions that we've made, that we're making now, and that we'll make in the future as well.
Obviously, you know, the celebration's cause for reflection, but my last question to you is, when you think about the word future and Ireland and the United States, what comes to mind?
I don't think there's anything but a bright future. I think it's often teased as Ireland is the 51st state. Puerto Rico may have a problem with that. But I think in many respects, whether we're Irish or not, I think people in this country look with great affection on the people of Ireland and the island of Ireland itself. And I think wish it well and hope for a prosperous Ireland, both north and south of the border, for years to come, in peace and reconciliation that'll thrive. And that someday that there'll be a united Ireland through peaceful means, that the people of the north understand that they have as much to gain and to lose by joining ranks with all the people of Ireland. I think that's the best way to move forward.
Why does everybody feel like it's so easy to connect over an ocean?
You know, the world's gotten a lot smaller. At one time it wasn't as easy. It was by memory, by song, by poetry, by literature, by knowing your parents or your grandparents. That was a connection. Today it's Facebook, it's television, it's so much more easy and convenient. And there are so many more, even to this day, Irish coming to the United States, not necessarily for the best of reasons in terms of the economy, but that connectivity is still there. And I would suggest it's even stronger today than before.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time
Thank you.
with us. Well, let's just start with the easiest one. How are you feeling this evening?
That's great night. The Washington dinner is what I call the end of the St. Patrick's Day 2 months. So tonight's it's a great success, and we got some great honorees.
Tell us a little bit about Washington, D.C. as a location for this event and the organization over the years.
Well, look, it's one of the first places that we started. New York, Boston, it was Boston, New York, and Washington. And we go all around the country, but we think that the Washington one is slightly different than the others because it's probably a little bit more political, but we can recognize our leaders, and so it's always one of the finest, but they're all great.
Obviously this is a big year. Everybody's talking about so many things in relation to Irish history.
Yeah.
But from your vantage point, what do you see for the future of Ireland with U.S. relations over time?
Well, I think the relation between the United States and Ireland couldn't be better. I mean, we've got a great Taoiseach back in the Ireland government, and we hope that it'll be coming forward again. And here we've got a great steady. I think it's the ambassadors too make a huge difference. We've got Kevin O'Malley, who is really, as I said earlier on, took a while to get to us, but has done a great job. And then Anne Anderson here, who is a great foothold here. So I think the relations is very, very good. And going forward, it'll all depend on the next election, but going forward it looks good.
When we look towards the future, education, supporting the community, these kinds of things, talk about your organization's efforts both north and south over the years.
Well, look, our organisation is to help all different areas and aspects of areas in Ireland. And one of the biggest things now the Ireland Fund faces with the Chuck Feeney, who we honoured in San Francisco last weekend. That Atlantic Philanthropies is now winding down at the end of this year, which is going to leave the American Ireland Fund and the Ireland Fund as a whole as the biggest philanthropy organisation in Ireland. So a lot of pressure is on us, and we're getting a lot more requests, but it makes us stronger too.
Tell us a little bit about how much it means to you personally and the organization to have people like Speaker Boehner and Speaker Ryan here tonight.
Well, you can hear them tonight. It's amazing to get them. I mean, to get two speakers, but also they're great guys. And again, it just proves that, as you heard them speak about the Taoiseach and the Kenny, how it's a close relationship they have. They're not just going to dinner or meeting together on St. Patrick's Day. They have actually built up a bond. And this bond is what we're talking about, is making everything stronger between the United States and Ireland. So it's a good one.
What makes that so easy over an ocean right now?
I don't know what makes it. I think it is it's contact. It is the point. It is Ireland is not that far away at all. I mean, I just said I went to the San Francisco dinner the other night, and it took me as long to get to San Francisco as it did to Ireland. So with modern travel today now, distance is no problem.
Last question. I speak to us a little bit from your own personal perspective. You've had a great kind of vantage point for the growth between Ireland and the United States. It's a massive year here. Give us some personal insight to your feelings as an Irish person and the U.S. relations.
For a person, look, well, my business is here now, but I'm Irish and I go back regularly an awful lot. The country here is doing well. Ireland is coming back. It's it's starting. It's not there yet, but it's beginning to move. It's the highest growth rate in Europe. So I think looking ahead, I think there's a great, in the point too, a lot of American companies are still investing in Ireland, and with the tax incentives and everything to move to Ireland, it's gone very well. So I think we're in for a bright future.
What's been your favorite part about growing with this organization?
It's the people. Truthfully, I mean, people say, why did I get on this, or why do people get involved? Why does anybody get involved in the Ireland Fund? Yes, we want to raise money, we want to help people, but we got to have fun as well, and you meet some great people here, and it's, as I said to you, it's what a network. It's probably one of the most fantastic networks in the whole lot.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thanks.
I've been called a lot of things, but never distinguished. It is, what a treat. This is means so much to me, and to have my friend Elizabeth offer some kind words about my connection with the cause. I want to thank the fund and all of you for supporting it and supporting the good work. I am about as stone Irish as you get.
Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I knew it. I put a bet that Kieran would tell a joke, but I had no idea he was going to sell two before. But thanks, Kieran, for that kind introduction. But good evening, Deputy First Minister, Mr. Speaker, Senators, Congressmen, Ambassadors, Consul General, and of course, ladies and gentlemen. Well, tonight is a very special evening with so much to celebrate. Well, first, Ireland is celebrating a very significant milestone this year, where we are remembering a key event that happened exactly 100 years ago, which laid the foundation for the modern Ireland of today. And also, the American Ireland Fund is celebrating 40 years of philanthropy throughout all of Ireland, north and south. Who would have thought, through a simple idea put by Tony O'Reilly and Dan Rooney 40 years ago, that we would evolve into what we are today. But we are at a critical junction right now as American Ireland Fund develops its goals and plans for the future. You know, your generosity gave us the confidence to double down on our original goal of $100 million for the Promising Ireland campaign. Well, thanks to many of you in this room tonight and others, not only did we exceed that goal, but we exceeded by 226 million. So please give yourselves all a big round of applause. Well, we are here tonight in the nation's capital at an interesting time, as this country is going through its own political process to select our next president. Now, I think you will all agree that it has been an interesting process, to say the least. Always spirited, often heated, and sometimes even bizarre. Well, one of the issues that has drawn the most attention is immigration, which of course is very important to the Irish. I consider myself very lucky to live here in America. It's a great country whose very nature is to be a melting pot, but where people from here and other places around the world, like myself, meet and blend. Throughout America's history, many families have come together this way. And in fact, It's really how America was built. So we hope that whoever is elected as our next president will remember this. Well, we have guests with us tonight from all across the political spectrum. And in the true American fashion, we are all here this evening to put politics aside for a moment and work together in support of great causes. You know, the recent passing of First Lady Nancy Reagan reminds me of a quote made by President Reagan that I think is very appropriate to use tonight. And he said, "All great changes in America begin at the dinner table." Well, here we are at the dinner table, so let's make some positive changes happen together. Speaking of dinner, I'd like to thank a few people for making tonight happen. I'd like to recognize our dinner chairs and our very large dinner committee, but of course, the great Susan O'Neill for keeping everybody on track and keeping it. Could we give them all a big round of applause? But I'd also like to recognize our board of directors, many of whom are in this room tonight. I believe that together we've accomplished a lot this year that will allow the fund to do great things going forward. So could you please join me in recognizing all our board members here tonight. Well, we are delighted to have the Irish Ambassador to the United States, Anne Anderson, here with us this evening. Now, she has made a great impression since coming over here in 2013 and continues to help make the relationship between Ireland and the US stronger and stronger. Ambassador, you're very, very welcome. But also, we have our US Ambassador to Ireland, Kevin O'Malley. And we can all remember that it took a little time for the US to decide who the new ambassador was going to be. Well, Ambassador O'Malley has proven to be well worth the wait. Can you please join me in recognizing Kevin O'Malley and his lovely wife, please, Dina. Where are you? Here you go. Thank you. Well, Martin McGuinness has been the Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland since the government was established in 2007. He's been a great friend to the fund for a very long time. We know that he will partner with the new First Minister, Arlene Foster, to continue to do great things for all of the people in Northern Ireland. And while First Minister Foster could not be with us this evening, we want to express our support for her in her new role. But however, we are delighted that Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness is able to join us tonight. So can you please join me in giving him the big Irish-American welcome. I'd also like to recognise Christopher Moran, Chairman of Cooperation Ireland, who is here with us tonight. You know, Cooperation Ireland continues to really help us to identify great causes to support, but especially in the most marginalist, loyalist communities in Northern Ireland. Christopher, you're also very, very welcome. But the real reason we are here tonight, and this is why we're all in this room, and this is for our honorees this evening. We're delighted to honour an extraordinary group this evening. While they come to us from diverse areas, one thing they share in common is that they all have made the world a better place. We're going to hear more about them later in the programme, but please join me in welcoming tonight our honorees, Terry O'Sullivan, Michael Flatley, Senator Tim Kaine, and former Speaker of the House, John Boehner. So as I finish up here tonight, I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight, but especially to thank you for all you do for the American Ireland Fund. So please, let's enjoy the rest of this evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Irish Ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Anne Anderson.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all the distinguished guests here this evening. The Taoiseach Enda Kenny, as many of you know, had very much hoped and planned to be here this evening for what is always one of the great events of the St. Patrick's Day season, this Ireland American Fund Gala. Unfortunately, due to a European Council meeting in Brussels, which was unforgivably scheduled for St. Patrick's Day, the Taoiseach is unable to be here, so he asked me to deliver a short message on his behalf. So here we are in the Taoiseach's words. I congratulate John Fitzpatrick and the whole team on another successful year. I want to say a very sincere thank you again to the American Ireland Fund for your unfailing commitment and generosity towards Ireland, and for all that has been achieved over the past 40 remarkable years. Tonight, you are honouring 4 truly exceptional individuals. During my annual St. Patrick's Day visits to Washington, I got to know Speaker John Boehner very well. Even at the busiest times, John's door was always open to me, and he never failed to offer a sympathetic hearing for our concerns. I cherish many warm memories of the St. Patrick's Day lunches that he hosted for us on the Hill. It was a great pleasure to repay his hospitality in Ireland last summer, and we even managed to squeeze in a quick round of golf. I am not sure if it is widely known that John likes to play a little. I am delighted that John is being honoured here tonight. I also warmly acknowledge the presence of his successor, another great Irish American, Speaker Paul Ryan. I know Paul's great sense of connection to Ireland. I thank him for the wonderful lunch he hosted yesterday, and we look forward to continuing to work with him over the years ahead. Senator Tim Kaine, throughout his distinguished career as mayor, governor, and now United States Senator, has always been a strong leader committed to the highest ideals of public service. He is one of the most respected members of Congress, and we are honoured to count him among our friends. A man who surely needs no introduction is Michael Flatley, the most famous Irish dancer of all time, and undoubtedly the greatest. I salute Michael's unflagging commitment to promoting Irish culture across the world, as well as his strong support for so many charities and good causes. And finally, Terry O'Sullivan, the President of the Labourers International Union of North America. Lots of Terry's friends here, clearly. Terry, too, is another long-time friend of Ireland. His presence here tonight reminds us all of the deep and enduring ties between the labour movements in both countries, ties which Terry has worked over many years to help sustain and strengthen. To all of you here tonight, my warmest wishes for a happy St. Patrick's Day. So that concludes the message from the Taoiseach, and it remains only for me to add my own personal congratulations and good wishes and best wishes for St. Patrick's Day. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Elizabeth Frawley Bagley.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here I've been here for every single one of these, and I can't even remember how many, but 20, I think, at least. And it's great to see all old friends and new friends. And I'm especially delighted to have this opportunity to introduce the recipient of the American Ireland Fund 2016 Distinguished Service Award to my good friend, United States Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. We pay tribute tonight to Senator
at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. I volunteered to put up yard signs for this new guy running for Congress. I had no idea how to pronounce this guy's name, whose signs I was putting in the yard. Beaner, Boner, Bonner. I didn't even know who he was. But later on, I got to know this son of a bar owner. I got to vote for this man as Speaker of the House. I've known John Boehner for 25 years. But only in the last 4 months have I really come to appreciate who this man is. I gave up impatience for Lent this year. And I learned about the kind of patience this man has. I learned about his commitment to do the right thing. Don't let him fool you, though. He may not look like an Irishman on the outside. He tans way too well. But don't let him fool you. This is a man who means what he says and says what he means. I remember one of my budgets I was rolling out, getting viciously attacked in the media. And John Boehner went to my defense in his very unique and, let's say, colorful way. And I told the press, trying to mop up after his defense of my budget, that's just John Boehner getting his Irish up. Let me tell you, I learned that when he was lobbying me to take this job, this guy really knows how to lay on the Irish Catholic guilt. He is the best in the business of this. He even had cardinals calling me. Traditionally, the Speaker doesn't typically weigh in on the big foreign affairs issues. John Boehner took a different path, a very important path. He stood with our allies. He spoke out for people who are longing to be free. And in the Irish people, in their prime minister, and in their golf courses, he found a kindred spirit. They were never Mr. Speaker or on Taoiseach. It was always just John and Enda. These two guys really got along great. And in a way, the friendship between these two men symbolized the friendship between our two countries. John Boehner is a very good man. John Boehner is a public servant. John Boehner is a friend of the Irish. And it is why I am honored to present this award to him tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, John Boehner.
Why the hell am I here? Beaner, Bonner, Boner, I'm as German gets, for God's sakes. You can't find any Irish anywhere. But let me tell you what, America would only be half of what America is without the Irish. I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here tonight with all of you. And how pleased I am that I was introduced by my friend, Paul Ryan. You know, Paul, I had to pursue him to take this job because it became pretty clear to me that he was the only person in the Congress who could get 218 votes. And if he didn't get 218 votes, I was going to be stuck there. I woke up one morning thinking, gee, I might have to be there an extra day or an extra week or an extra month. So when I say I laid it on, Paul has no idea. I talked to him 4 times that afternoon when I had to get him to do this, and I laid every ounce of Catholic guilt I could on him. Cardinal Dolan of New York, the Archbishop of New York, used to be the Archbishop of Milwaukee, friend of mine, and I also knew a friend of Paul Ryan's. And I had to call Cardinal Dolan and say, Cardinal, you need to call Paul. This is God's will. And I know Cardinal Dolan called him because about 30 seconds after Paul got off the phone with Cardinal Dolan, he said, my God, you've got Dolan calling me now. You know, when I was asked to come tonight and to receive this award, I thought it was a really big deal. Until I found out that Tom Rooney was one of last year's honorees. Yeah, you, Rooney. So, for those of you who don't know, I've got 2 daughters. And so over the years, I've had to adopt some sons. And some of them were staff, some of them were members. And Rooney got adopted about 10 years ago because he needed a father figure in his life. As Paul pointed out, the Taoiseach and I became very close friends. I inherited this St. Patrick's Day luncheon that is held on the Hill every year, started by Tip O'Neill back in the 80s. And in 2011, I was proud to host this luncheon. And I met the Taoiseach. And so I'm sitting there between the Taoiseach and the President Obama, and Taoiseach leans over and says, John, he says, how's immigration reform coming? I said, what the hell do you care about immigration reform? Oh, John, you don't realize that there are about 50,000 of my fellow Irish who came to America to see their friends and see their relatives, but just never quite made it back across the pond. He says, you know, their relatives have to, in America, can't go back, so they have to call their brothers and sisters and cousins at their parents' funeral. This can't happen. And so I told the Taoiseach, I said, listen, I'll be happy to work on this. And I did work on it. But every year at this luncheon for 5 years, the Taoiseach, John, how's immigration reform coming? I go to Ireland this summer. I take a group of members. We were in Europe. And ending the trip over the 4th of July in Ireland. And the ambassador, Kevin O'Malley, and his wife could not have been more gracious, and the Taoiseach could not have been more gracious. But I wasn't in Ireland more than an hour when, I'm dealing with the Taoiseach, my buddy, and he says, John, how's immigration reform coming? Let me tell you, we had a great visit to Ireland. I've been there many times. And every time I'm there, I'm reminded of the genuine nature of the Irish people. And it doesn't matter, I can do my Dublin thing, but I just assume be out in the countryside. And you realize just how genuine the Irish people are and how blessed we are to have many of them here in America. I'm honored to receive this award. A lot of you know I have 11 brothers and sisters. My dad owned a bar, and only in America can the son of a bartender grow up and be the Speaker of the House. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Armand E. Sabatoni, General Secretary, Treasurer, and New England Regional Manager of the Laborers International Union of North America.